Before today's video, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest videos. If you want to see a case or topic covered by Paranormally Listed, then go to criminallylisted.com and fill out the questionnaire under the Suggest a Case tab. Number 3. The Cowden Family. In the heart of southern Oregon's rugged Siskiyou Mountains, a haunting mystery still lingers. For decades, a family's disappearance has shocked the nation and still remains unsolved. Richard Cowden, his wife Belinda, and their two young children, David and Melissa, vanished without a trace during a quiet Labor Day weekend in 1974. What began as a peaceful camping trip turned into one of Oregon's most baffling and chilling unsolved mysteries. On September 1st, 1974, 28-year-old Richard Cowden, a logger and part-time truck driver, his 22-year-old wife, Belinda, and their children, 5-year-old David and 5-month-old Melissa, set out on a camping trip near Carberry Creek, just outside Copper, Oregon. The site was a familiar one for the family. They had often camped there before and felt comfortable in the remote, forested area. They parked their 1956 Ford pickup truck near the campsite, unpacked their gear, and began what should have been a relaxing weekend immersed in nature. Witnesses later reported seeing the family together at the Copper General Store around 9 a.m. on Sunday, September 1st. They purchased milk, and Richard walked back towards the campsite, the last confirmed sighting of any member of the Cowden family alive. When Richard failed to show up for work on September 2nd, his mother became concerned. She visited the campsite and was met with an eerie, unsettling sight. The family's belongings were still there, seemingly untouched. A plastic dishpan full of cold water sat on the ground, likely from washing dishes. The family swimsuits were hung neatly on a clothesline. A carton of milk sat on the picnic table, left open. Belinda's purse, a diaper bag, and the baby's bottles were also left behind. Richard's wallet and keys were still in the truck, and the truck itself was locked. Perhaps most disturbingly, the family's dog was sitting outside the vehicle, alive but alone. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no indication of a scuffle or wild animal attack. It was as if the family had simply walked away and never returned. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office launched an extensive search involving state police, Forest Service personnel, helicopters, dogs, and hundreds of volunteers. They combed through the steep, forested terrain, scouring the creek beds, trails, and nearby caves. Despite the effort, no trace of the Cowdens was found. For months, the investigation stalled. There were no leads, no suspects, and no bodies. Sheriff investigators were baffled. The Cowdens had not been experiencing marital or financial trouble. There was no evidence they left voluntarily. Authorities considered several theories, including accidental drowning, a bear attack, or even a murder-suicide, but none held up to scrutiny. The evidence, or lack of it, didn't point in any clear direction. On April 12, 1975, a father and son hiking near a remote area just 7 miles from the Cowden's campsite made a gruesome discovery in a rock outcropping. Inside a small cave hidden among thick brush and large rocks, they found the decomposed remains of Belinda, David, and Melissa Cowden. Richard's body was found tied to a nearby tree about 100 feet away. His remains were skeletal by this point, but his body bore signs of violence. Although decomposition made the exact details difficult to determine, authorities concluded that Belinda and the children had been murdered. Belinda had been shot with a .22 caliber weapon, and 5-year-old David was bludgeoned and shot. Melissa's cause of death could not be conclusively determined due to her young age and the time elapsed. The scene shocked law enforcement. The bodies had clearly been hidden with intent. The location had been searched previously during the initial investigation, suggesting the killer returned later to move or further conceal the remains. With the bodies discovered, the police were no closer to solving the case. One man would emerge as a likely suspect, Dwayne Lee Little, a convicted murderer and no violent offender. Little's life of crime began early with shocking brutality. In 1964, at just age 16, he was convicted of the rape and murder of 15-year-old Orla Faye Phipps in Oregon. The case was gruesome. Orla had been sexually assaulted and killed with a blunt instrument. The brutality of the crime stood out, and many questioned how someone so young could commit such an act. Because of his age, Little was spared the death penalty and instead sentenced to life in prison. While incarcerated, he was described by prison officials as polite, cooperative, and quiet, yet cold. Despite his heinous crimes, Little became eligible for parole and, shockingly, was released in May 1974, just 10 years after the murder. Around the time of the family's vanishing, he was reportedly in the Copper area, possibly camping nearby. Little's parole was revoked in January 1975 due to his parole agreement. While in prison, Little's girlfriend at the time said he was in possession of a .22 caliber pistol. However, the bodies of the Cowdens had not yet been discovered. During the course of the investigation, a fellow inmate claimed that Little had confessed to killing the Cowden family. The inmate told the police that Little admitted to killing the family because Richard refused to give him a ride. However, without physical evidence tying him to the crime, authorities were never able to charge him. Little was once again paroled in April 1977. On June 2, 1980, 23-year-old Margie Hunter, who was pregnant, had her car break down near Portland, Oregon. Hunter was stranded when Little encountered her. He offered her assistance and reportedly gave her a ride. Later, he forcibly took her to a secluded hill near a freeway interchange just outside Tigard. There, he brutally raped and beat her, then choked, stabbed, and slashed her with a knife. He then left her for dead. Despite her severe injuries, Hunter managed to regain consciousness, crawl to the freeway, and flag down a passing driver who took her to the hospital. She ultimately survived her ordeal. Little was arrested the next day based on the victim's description of him and his car. He was formally charged with first-degree kidnapping, first-degree rape, and attempted murder. Little was found guilty and received 3 consecutive life-term sentences. He is eligible for parole after serving a minimum of 10 years for each conviction. At the time of this recording, 76-year-old Dwayne Lee Little is being housed at the Oregon State Penitentiary. For the brutality of his crimes, he will most likely die in prison. Other than Little, there have been no other suspects in the Cowden family murder. To this day, the murders remain unsolved. Number 2. Jared Atadero. October 2nd, 1999, a day like any other, the Atadero family was met with tragedy. Alan Atadero had been separated from Stacy McKissick. They had 2 children together, Jared, who was 3 years old, and Jocelyn, who was 6. At the time, the kids were primarily living with their father. On that day, Jared was hiking along the Big South Trail in Colorado's Roosevelt National Forest near Rocky Mountain National Park. He was accompanied with his older sister, Jocelyn, and members of a Christian singles group. Alan met the Christian singles group through a local church in Fort Collins, Colorado. Alan stayed behind as he was working at the Padre River Resort, which he and his twin brother owned. The resort was on the base of the canyon. The trip was supposed to be a short walk to a nearby fish hatchery, but the group ventured deeper into rugged terrain. Instead of visiting the fish hatchery as discussed, the group decided on their own to hike the Big South Trail in Roosevelt National Forest, a relatively rugged and isolated area. The group took Jared and Jocelyn along the trail without informing Alan of the change of plans. Not long into the hike, Jared, a bright, curious child, ran ahead about 100 feet. He paused to chat with a fisherman by the river, asking, quote, "Are there any bears around here?" unquote, and then continued uphill. That was the last confirmed sighting of him alive. Soon after, his sister and others heard a scream. Some say it sounded playful, others alarmed. When the group caught up, Jared had vanished. Alan was notified and rushed to the trail screaming, quote, "They lost my baby," unquote. This was the first of one of the biggest search and rescue efforts in Colorado history. For 6 grueling days, teams combed the steep, rocky slopes with foot patrols, horses, helicopters, dive teams, and K-9 units. No footprints, clothing, or indication of a struggle were found. No other trace of Jared was found. The search even suffered a devastating blow when an Air Force Huey helicopter crashed, injuring several crew members. On October 8, 1999, the search was called off due to safety concerns and the lack of evidence. Nearly 4 years later, on May 6, 2003, hikers found a brown fleece jacket, blue pants that were inside out, and Tarzan sneakers that belonged to Jared. They were situated about 550 feet above the trail in a place that is very difficult to access. A human tooth and fragile skull fragment discovered among the rocks were later DNA tested and confirmed to belong to Jared. The Larimer County Sheriff and wildlife experts believed cougar tracks found nearby implied a predator attack. However, experts and Jared's father disputed the mountain lion theory. The clothing bore no blood or typical bite or puncture marks. The pants were inside out, unlikely behavior for an animal. The sneakers showed little wear or drag marks. Skull damage included odd scratches that didn't match animal mauling. The discovery site was inconsistent with typical predator kill sites. For instance, cougars often drag their prey downhill or to sheltered areas, not uphill to exposed rock ledges. Also, no animal hair or DNA was discovered on any of the clothes. Some specialists consider the scenario of human interference or abduction. Alan believed that the clothes looked staged. His shoes looked out of place and seemed to be placed there. With no blood on the clothes, experts believe they were taken off the child before death. For the Atadero family, the discovery of the remains brought closure, twinged with grief. Alan kept a piece of Jared's skull as a treasured memorial. The Big South Trail was renamed the Jared Atadero Trail in Colorado passed outdoor safety awareness legislation in 2000. Alan spearheaded efforts that contributed to creating Amber Alert system in Colorado by 2002. Search and rescue teams now teach better wilderness safety such as whistles, bright clothes, staying put, and letting children take small strides in accountability. Despite official rulings pointing to a mountain lion attack, many questions linger. Why no blood or natural predator marks? Who turned his pants inside out? How did the child's remains end up so high? And where did the rest of his bones go? His father's advocacy continues. Alan expressed that he wished he never allowed his young children to go on that kind of hike had he known the true destination. The adult hiking group accepted full responsibility for supervising the children that day. As of today, Jared Atadero's death remains officially open. Number 1. Joshua Maddox. In the peaceful mountain town of Woodland Park, Colorado, lived the Maddox family. Joshua Vernon Maddox was an 18-year-old with a kind heart, sharp mind, and a love for the outdoors. Joshua Maddox was one of 8 children. His father, Mike Maddox, was known locally and worked hard to provide for his large family. Described by friends and family as gentle, artistic, and introspective, he enjoyed writing music, playing guitar, and hiking in the nearby forests. His family was still healing from the sudden loss of his older brother, Zachary, 2 years prior, a blow that had shaken his family deeply. The cause was reportedly a combination of mental health struggles and possibly a reaction to medication which triggered erratic behavior. Zachary's sudden death shocked the family and devastated Joshua, who looked up to him. After Zachary's death, Joshua became more introspective and more withdrawn. According to his family, he was still gentle and kind, but there was a quiet sorrow in him. He coped by spending time alone in nature, writing and composing music. On the morning of May 8, 2008, Joshua told his sister, Kate, he was going for a walk. It was a regular habit. He often took long walks into the woods around their home, sometimes to clear his head, sometimes just to enjoy the solitude of nature. But sadly, he never returned. Initially, there were no signs of foul play, no evidence of an accident. His family assumed he had gone off hiking and perhaps gone lost or injured. As days turned into weeks and then months, the search efforts dwindled. Flyers were distributed, interviews were conducted, but nothing turned up. Joshua seemingly vanished in thin air. His case received minimal media attention. There were no major leads, no suspects, no evidence. 7 years passed. In 2015, a long-abandoned log cabin on the edge of Woodland Park was being demolished by its new owner, Chuck Murphy, a builder and property developer. The cabin was about a mile from Maddox's house. Murphy had owned the cabin for around a decade, but never lived in it. For years it had sat neglected and unused, filled with trash and old furniture. During the demolition, workers made a grisly discovery. In the chimney, they found a human body wedged upside down, badly decomposed, but mostly intact due to the dry mountain air. Some reports say they found the body feet down, but in a curled-up position. The body was only wearing a thermal shirt and no pants. Authorities were called immediately. Dental records confirmed what no one wanted to believe. It was Joshua Maddox. The condition and location of Joshua's body immediately raised disturbing questions. The coroner found no signs of trauma, stabbing, gunshot wounds, or broken bones. There was no evidence of drug use or alcohol. It appeared that Joshua had voluntarily entered the chimney head first and then became stuck, ultimately dying of positional asphyxiation or exposure. His death was ruled accidental, but many, including law enforcement and his family, found this highly implausible. The chimney had a heavy metal grate, known as rebar capping, installed at the top, which would have made it impossible for him to climb down from the roof. It would have had to be removed for someone to enter from above, yet was still in place when the body was found. Adding to the strangeness, the inside of the cabin's fireplace had been blocked off with a large wooden breakfast bar, nailed into place from the inside, making it impossible to climb in through the fireplace opening either. This meant that Joshua would have had to climb down the chimney after the barrier was in place and then sealed inside, which made no sense. And then there was the state of his clothing. He was found without pants, socks, or shoes. His remaining clothes were found inside the cabin. So why would Joshua climb down the chimney if he was already inside the cabin? Some believe that Joshua was murdered, then the killer placed his body in the chimney to hide it. One name that came up frequently in online theories was Andy, a former friend of Joshua's. Andy was known in Woodland Park as being unstable and sometimes violent. He had once bragged about killing someone and hiding the body in a chimney, though some dismissed this as a disturbing joke. Andy was later incarcerated for violent offenses, including sexual assault and attempted murder. While there's no direct evidence linking him to Joshua's death, many suspect him. The timeline matches, and he reportedly left Woodland Park shortly after Joshua disappeared. However, the police said they have no hard evidence to pursue charges or even formally name a suspect. Many unanswered questions have been brought forward over the years. Why would a healthy, intelligent young man like Joshua attempt to climb into a chimney head first? How did he end up without any pants or shoes, yet no signs of a struggle? Why was the fireplace barricaded from inside the house, making it impossible to enter or exit? Was someone in the cabin when Joshua was placed there? These questions have never been satisfactorily answered. Joshua Maddox's story remains one of the most unsettling and inexplicable modern mystery cases in the United States. His family, while heartbroken to finally have closure, remains deeply unsatisfied with the accidental death ruling. They and many others believe that Joshua was a victim of foul play and his killer remains free. To this day, people continue to theorize about what happened during that walk in May 2008 when an 18-year-old boy set out for the woods and stepped into a mystery that would only grow more chilling with time. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, please make sure you subscribe. We'll have a new video about the paranormal every week. If you just discovered this channel, please make sure you check out our other channel, Criminally Listed. We have over 325 videos featuring bizarre but true crime stories. You can find it at youtube.com/criminallylisted. Well, that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.